lifetime ban from all football stadiums in the land. The 24-year-old idiot who sent racial abuse to Ivan Toney has learnt a very valuable lesson. When you mess around, you find out. That's the clean version. You guys know what I mean. This is One Kick from Glory. We're back with another episode. I'm joined by Matthew and Marcus here today. Craig can't make it, but, you know, we're going to have some fun anyway. Starting off with that story, mess around and you'll find out. I want to start with you, Matthew. What do you think about the decision that has been taken by the governing authorities to actually impose such a historic ban on a fan?
Well, if they're hell-bent on this whole thing of, a cleaner version of football, like, eradicating all the riffraff, cleaning out, like a gentrification of football, just clearing out all the riffraff and the mess and the things like that.
Gentrification, steady now. Gentrification, I don't know about that one, Chief.
But you know what I mean, just kind of like a filtering. This is exactly the kind of thing. I mean, I don't know exactly what he's saying, but if it's going on the lines of things being racial, it's going to be a case of, well, it's just not allowed in the game. I mean, we frown very, very much so on it, especially in the last 3 years with what's been going on in the world. And I guess that you have to stand firm on what you believe in, and these punishments kind of have to stick through. So you got to imagine, like, I don't feel sorry for this person at all. We literally said silly games, silly prizes. I say this enough times that people need to understand what this means. If you do something like that in return, you're going to get something stupid in return. And then now look, I mean, it's probably coming from a guy who's been going to football long enough to know what you can and can't do. It's changed so much. I mean, I go to football games at a championship stadium. Even there, they don't have it. Family club. Brentford, right? So it's a family club, family expectations. You come, once a week, twice a week, whatever, to come and watch your team play. Just come here and enjoy the game for what it is. There's still clubs out there that still have that kind of family integration, and then you have to go ahead and ruin it. Like, what goes through your? I mean, what? How? What must he be feeling right now? What must he be feeling like? He's banned from pretty much every league stadium. Is it any league stadium?
Every stadium in the whole country.
I mean, there are a lot of stadiums. So if Brentford get to a final of some sort, you can't go. If Brentford have a nice big game and play Man United win 4-0, you can't go. So you've only got yourself to blame, mate.
But I also think it's about time that the governing bodies did something comprehensive against racism. I think it's been, we've had the Kick It Out campaign. We've had the stand up campaign against discrimination and everything that's been done. Players taking the knee for the past few years, which quite a number of fans have kind of just don't like or have an issue with or whatever. But I think the fact that the authorities have actually set a precedent now with this form of discrimination. At the end of the day, if you're going to have a go at a player for their performances, if it's against your club or if it's for your club, at least make it be measured. They are still people. Why do you have to resort to racial epitaphs, even homophobic slurs? Like, why do we always have to go to the worst kind of insults that are just pathetic, really, to try and bring a person down? It's ridiculous. So he messed around and he found out, and good riddance. I mean, he's getting banned from Justice stadiums is light. It could have been worse. But.
Should have been worse.
Should have been worse. But that's a lesson, and also I think now that this sets a precedent, because the next time it happens, is it going to be an equal response? Is that what they're going to do, or is this a one-off? Because if it's a one-off, then it's going to encourage other people to be bolder and try similar things. I mean, we saw the abuse that Rashford, Sancho, and Saka got after the Euros, which was just disgraceful. I mean, yeah, obviously they missed the penalty. It was a crucial penalty for the country, but at the end of the day, like, that can happen in football. It's not life or death, and the reaction was just from a significant subsection of twats was just unnecessary, and we just don't want to see that at all in the game. But moving on from one controversy to another, Gary Lineker this past week was taken off the air of Match of the Day. It became Match of the Day to highlight of the day, and it was like watching a YouTube clip on the TV. It was quite bizarre. I don't know if it was good or bad. I kind of feel indifferent about it. But he's now back in his job, so well done, BBC, you idiots. But for you, Marcus, what do you think about that whole saga? Like, because I just feel like it was just completely taken out of proportion, and actually what he said is true.
I think the debate is more around not what he said, but whether or not he had the right to say it. And I think, at the end of the day, this is the at the core of the debate. The BBC say that he has to abide to guidelines. Gary Lineker says that he's entitled to speak about what he believes he wants to speak about to his audience, and that his views don't represent the BBC. And I think that at the core of that is a very, very important issue: is do especially big organizations that represent government bodies have the right to tell their employees what they can and can't say? And I think in this case, what's been very, very clear is that everybody got behind Gary Lineker and the BBC fell flat on their backside and had to ravel in that fishing line that they'd hooked out a couple of days earlier, because everybody basically was like, well, all right, great, we won't do it. You can't have our commentary. You can't have our punditry. We're all done, basically. There's no match of the day. You basically got nothing. I'm surprised that the people who, make the videos were like, you can't have our videos. Like, you're not entitled to the rights of our videos anymore. Like, but look, I think at the end of the day, the right conclusions have been came to in the fact that they've had conversations. He's getting his position back, and the BBC are gonna review their policies. I think they have to. At the end of the day, in this particular case, whether they like what Gary Lineker says or not, nobody took him off the air when he spoke about Qatar's human rights issues. No one took him off the air in other circumstances and scenarios where he's spoken his mind on human rights or political natured issues. But because it was a political issue that the BBC didn't like, then they decided to take him off the air. And I think in that case, a lot of people have called them out on that. So yeah.
Yeah, and the irony of it all is that the talking line from the Conservatives a lot this past sort of 6 or whatever months has been about the woke Twitterati and cancel culture, and it's just like you've just done the same thing through your proxy chairman who is Rishi Sunak's mentor, who helped Boris Johnson get a loan for his house. Who's really the snowflakes here? But anyway, we won't get down the political rabbit hole just yet. We all have careers and none of us want to get cancelled. And also because there's other podcasts you can listen to which do a great job on going on those kind of notes. But moving on from one corrupt group of one suspected corrupt organisation. So I should actually say that, alleged corrupt organisation, to one very corrupt club who we don't have to say alleged at all. They are just a disgrace to the, to football. No, not Man City, not on this occasion. Barcelona, the club of the people. Has been charged, or at least allegations have been brought up against them of them bribing referees for a good decade of their golden era of success, and there was a little bit of backhanders slid under the table. When you heard this news, Marcus, I'll start with you. Like, what did you think about it? Like, and what are the ramifications you can see if this is found to be true?
Oh, come on, don't be silly. This is football we're talking about. Slap on the wrist, they'll get away with it, it'll be fine. But £20 million fine, and they'll be, things will be all well in the world again, just like they were for PSG, and just like they probably will be for Man City. Like, there really is very rarely big ramifications for these types of things in football. If proved to be true, then they should be hit with the biggest fines, the biggest charges, and the biggest dropped points presently, because who cares about the past? Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't make a difference if they are stripped of trophies in the past. What Arsenal fans going to go and do a trophy parade for winning the Champions League back in 2006 or whenever it was, if they stripped the trophy?
This guy right here, shamelessly. Yeah, I don't care. I will do it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing: when you've won one or two of them, then you're not really that bothered. So in my case, like, it's not something that I'd be doing. But at the end of the day, like if it is true, they should be punished, significantly in the present. And I still think we'll have some time to wait on this. It's like anything; it's never resolved overnight. It'll probably be still looking a year or two down the line. They might have another couple of titles in the bag before then. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just find it a shame that all these allegations are coming up now and not like at the time when things were really going on, and you could have probably clipped them off in their prime. I mean, the Man City one in particular, it's like, what really can you do now? If you do find them guilty, you're literally removing Premier League history from the record books. Like, how's that going to really work? The Aguero moment doesn't really stand up anymore if they're found guilty, because they wouldn't have signed him, potentially, right? Like, so many things you lose. But if both clubs are guilty, they should be punished. I'm not giving them a pass. Don't be confused. Like, they should still be punished from the current season and last season, and for respective seasons for those clubs who need the points to kind of change some titles. But and talking of a club that definitely will be looking at that ruling with very close eyes, Liverpool FC. You guys are really on your Marmite wave right now. I can't even say love it or hate it. You just. It's not even like Jekyll and Hyde. You're basically you're on a. I don't want to say you're on a Kanye West, but you are really. Liverpool's season is like Kanye West's discography. There's some great classics in there, and then there's just a whole lot of nah. And then there's some that should have been left in the studio and never been released. It's just been all over the gaff, but. For you, Matthew, because you guys are in a similar boat. You're in a worse boat. Your boat's got like lots of holes at the back and holes at the front of the ship. Whereas Liverpool, the problem with Liverpool is that the engine, they just keep forgetting how to start it properly. So they get it to start for a bit and then it kind of stalls. You guys just have holes in your ship and you're somehow still skating along, but at any point in time you might just drown. Like how do you look at this situation with Liverpool, especially this season, processing it and think about like how they can find some consistency going forward?
For every moment, that they have a result like Man United, it comes crashing down with one like Bournemouth, and it's a very hard one to explain. I wasn't there to watch the game because I was actually out, but I was keeping up. I was thinking any moment that Jugger is going to come, because I think they scored their goal quite early, didn't they, Bournemouth? And he's thinking it's coming. I kept looking at my thinking it's not coming. Like I said, I didn't. Maybe that 7-0 was a false dawn. I mean, Marcus might disagree. You just caught them off on a really. Like I said, I think we just caught Man United in a time when they forgot to play football. Some of those goals they conceded in that game was still so disgusting. I mean, the one with the header figure was, who scored the header, Marcus, in the Man United game?
Nunes,
yeah.
Yeah, Nunes. How he's beating Varane in the air, I'll never know. But he needed that kind of fortune against Bournemouth. I don't know, it's so difficult to place. It's really difficult to place because you look at that team thinking, how can they put seven past a main contender and lose 1-0 to a relegation for that? I know they're fighting, but even...
Contender for what?
Relegation.
Oh, good.
Bournemouth.
Man United contender for what? I was like, for relegation. Continue.
Oh, please, Man United, they're still years away. I said that. They're still a while away. But yeah, it's so confusing to look at because you think that they're, like you said, they forget to start the engine. Was it the personnel? Were they too tired after the Man United game? Were they more concerned about tonight's game in about 10 minutes' time, trying to do something against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu? I don't know. You can look at it and probably possibly call it a little bit of complacency because they're in a better position now as they were a few weeks ago. They're closer to the top four. I think they're still only a handful of points away. Plus, it still helps that I think Spurs lost on the weekend. No, they won this weekend just gone, but they lost their last game against Wolves. Yeah. So it's not as if the gap is massively, it's not as if the gap is like unachievable. Top four is still very much possible. You just still got to worry about Newcastle. I think they won their game on Sunday. Yep. But it's still kind of there. So if anything, they're still in the running to get like the top four, but slips like this cost you. You'll look at a game like this and be like a 1-0 against a relegation candidate and be like, where did it? Because, they gave you a game. They did. And they gave Liverpool a game. And when we eventually go to Bournemouth and lose 3 points, they could give us a game too.
Just make sure you don't lose 6-0 because that would be quite a picture.
We don't like the vitality though, you know that. I know that.
Yeah, but 6-0.
Graham Potter, get it right for the vitality, please. Bogey ground in a whole new way. But yeah, it's just hard to pick. I wouldn't be worried if I was a Liverpool fan right now. You're still very much in that kind of position of top 4 European football. We're currently fixing our metal boat with plasters. You just need to put some petrol in the engine. Just find that petrol. Find the petrol, Marcus. Find it.
Yeah, I think that's a good analogy though, the petrol. But like, I guess for you, Marcus, looking at the state of play, obviously there's a lot to be said about Liverpool, a lot to kind of figure out and resolve. But are there any positives you can take, or rather, with the game in particular, what really went wrong? What was the issues in your performances? And with the games coming up, how crucial is it to kind of get off on the right foot and steady and push on to Champions League?
Like if you watch Liverpool tonight, I'm pretty sure Liverpool will give you a good game. I'll be surprised if there isn't at least a moment in the game tonight where people look and think, all right, there's a chance here. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if we go 1-0 up. It wouldn't surprise me if we're 2-0 up and we're only a goal away. And then Madrid take it from us and cruise into the quarterfinals and into the distance, winning their 19 millionth Champions League in the last 3 years. But the problem with Liverpool at the moment, I think, big problem, there's lots, but the big problem seems to be they get up for the big games, but they don't have the same drive and mentality when they're playing Bournemouth. And we lost to Bournemouth, we lost to Nottingham Forest, we lost to Leeds, we drew with Fulham, that's pretty much all the relegation teams and teams that we lost 3-0 to Wolves when they were down in the relegation zone. This season has been, if you look at them fixtures, I think we lost 8 games. I say only lost 8 games, and I think 6 of them are against teams that have been in the relegation zone or around the relegation zone at the time in defeat. And yet, if you look at the games around them, we beat Man City, but then we lost to Forest and Leeds. We beat Man United 7-0, lost to Bournemouth. I guess the good news is that, Liverpool's, next 3 games are, Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea. So they're all going to be big games that we're going to be expected to be up for. But it is a very, very vital run. These next 3 league games for Liverpool will determine, I think, whether or not we're in the top 4 come the end of the season. But yeah, I think that's where I would highlight, at least at the moment. The Bournemouth game. Sorry, you did ask what went wrong. There just weren't enough chances created, and then Salah missed the penalty, and it was like the pop in the balloon, and it inflates and off it goes. It's game over. I think if Salah had scored that penalty, there'd have been enough momentum in the game that we'd have probably gone on 1-2 or 3-1. But when he missed that penalty, it was almost like the players were like, I don't think we can do this today. Bournemouth looked dangerous on the counter-attack, and, ultimately in the 94th minute was pushing up to try and get a corner off a counter. They weren't pinned in under tremendous pressure. You didn't think the goal was coming, but I think it is systematic of, being up for the big games and not up for the games that you need to be up for to be winning league titles.
Yeah, and I hope that's something that you can arrest as the season goes. Well, not in all the games. Obviously, City, yes. Arsenal, no. And then Chelsea, yes. 100% yes.
Definitely not.
What would you say then is your ideal finishing position, and where do you expect Liverpool to finish coming end of the season?
Well, I said we'd finish above Man United last week. I'll stick with that. I'm not going to let the Bournemouth performance changed my mind, and I'll hold you all accountable to the fact that you all said the same thing too. So you guys can tell me whether or not you was on the Liverpool hype of 7-0 bandwagon, or not. But I'm going to stick with what I said. I think, again, you look at United, they had a drab 0-0 performance against Southampton at the weekend. If we'd have won our game, we'd have been 5 points behind Man United. But stupidly we lost, so we're 8 points behind Man United. But I just have a feeling with Eriksen and Casemiro missing, Casemiro suspended for the next 4 games. I absolutely love Casemiro's last 10 games. I don't know if you saw that meme of Casemiro's last 10 games. It's like, got sent off, suspended, lost 7-0, got sent off, suspended.
Oh, my God.
Love it.
But yeah, I think top four is the bare minimum. We have to finish top four. We're still in and around there. We're still got the team that's capable of doing it, and I still think Man United will be dragged into that with their next 3 or 4 games without Casemiro and Eriksen. I think it'll be tough for them in the middle of the park. It's kind of a flashback to last season's Man United midfield, and I think that was where a lot of their problems came. So.
Yeah, they're going to have to get creative with who they pick as their middle three. I think Sabitzer will be looking to start quite a few of those games. I think Fred will need to stay in the form that he's been in most of the season and kind of be that Fred. And if they do go to McTominay, then he just needs to literally do one thing, stay in the middle of the park, and when the ball comes towards you, head it, kick it. That's it. That is it. No dribbling, nothing fancy. Just win it, give it to someone better than you. Yes. And I think that they will be okay if they do that. If he tries doing something different, like running with the ball, dribbling, trying to skill past people, not that he does it, but there's just things in his game where he's not quite, he's not quite as refined yet. And maybe he will learn it from Casemiro, maybe not. Maybe he might just learn how to tackle badly and get red cards, which he does anyway, but doesn't get sent off because, agenda. But moving on from one agenda to one agenda that I'm really happy about. Arsenal are dominating London. I think we're one more game away, and if we win it, we would have been unbeaten in London against our London team rivals. So that's Brentford, Fulham, Chelsea, Tottenham, obviously West Ham, and last but not least, although they are the least of all of us, Tiny Tots. I think West Ham's our last game of the bunch to go, but I'm really pleased with what I've seen from the team this season. I've even seen some statistics saying that the Premier League quality has gone down and Man City are having a bad year. But when you compare their points at this point in time over the last few seasons, they're only off by I think 3 points or 2 points. It's not even like they've dropped off that much. I don't think anyone's dropped off. I think the league quality has just been really high. Every team can give you a game, as we've seen from Bournemouth, we've seen it from Nottingham Forest. Like everyone, there's no easy games anymore. There's no guaranteed 3 points. Everyone, you have to be on your A game, like all the time.
That's good though. It opens up a little bit, doesn't it?
It does, and it's what it's what the Premier League's all about. And if you look back to like the early '90s / the 2000s era Premier League, like even though you had the set top four. And then you had like the middle range pack of teams. There was always these games that it was just like, this is going to be a tricky one. When Blackburn were in the Premier League and they were established, they would give you a game. When Bolton were in the league, they would give you a game. Not to mention Stoke. Like, you had your teams, you would give you a match, and that was really interesting. Even Everton back then were a team that could punch and they could turn it on. Newcastle had their moments, and obviously Newcastle are kind of back to not quite where they want to be, but on the path, because Newcastle, that's a big city. They deserve to have a really good club. So there was always been teams in the league that have been tricky to play against and punch above their weight. But I want to kind of look at an individual player for Arsenal who this season there's been lots of comparisons about him and who and Casemiro as to who the real big DM in the league is, and that's Thomas Partey. And I want to land this with you, Matthew, like with how he's performed for Arsenal and how integral he is to how we play and what we do, what we want to do. Is he in for a shout for PFA Player of the Year?
I'd say so. I mean, because the improvement he's had since he came in the Premier League, because he had a very slow start when he first came. I don't think he quite kind of figured out what the league was about. I think I also mainly think that his focus was not as where it should have been at the time. But now that he's found it, you're now seeing why they plucked him away from Atletico the way that they did. You can see that just how integral he is to your team. I think that first game United that you lost, he wasn't there, and he's pretty much featuring every other game. And it's not a surprise to see of how we've risen to the top when he's been in there and allow not just himself as a player, but allow the other players around him to show off what they have to offer, particularly like Odegaard, mainly Odegaard, just how integral and effective that he is. But also shows on the good hand how good Partey is, because other players can flourish. So he's just doing his job really, really well. The Casemiro, I mean, my brother, he's a big Arsenal fan. They're saying, this was about, I want to say 1-2 months ago, they were talking about this whole thing about Casemiro and him. It's just like, where is this talk coming from? You have to remember that Thomas Partey has been playing every single game and he missed one, and that was one that we lost. Like I said before, so I don't know where this comparison is coming from. Like Marcus said, in the last 10, he's probably played 3, and now he's missing more. At least Partey's He's focused. He's there. They've got a goal. They've got a goal at the end of the hand, and we're not going to. I don't want to jinx it for you, but we all know what it is. That elephant in the room. We know what's coming up. So, yeah, I mean, he's a player I wouldn't mind having in my midfield right now. I'll tell you that much.
No,
but
you can't have him.
Huh?
You can't have him.
But yeah, anyway.
Oh no! To be fair, if you want to send Enzo and Mudryk our way, we can talk.
Say that, but he's good. He's good. It's not daft to suggest him as a player of the year candidate. It really isn't. So, come the end of the season, I mean, but even then, if the season turns out different, he'll still be very much a candidate. I mean, most people when they have their team of the year and they set it out, I'll be surprised if he's not there.
Yeah,
but Casemiro is. Let's just say that.
Wow. Well, I'm excited to see how this season plays out, and we've still got a number of games to go. We've still got big ambitions and dreams as fans. Obviously, the club has its own internal targets, which they're keeping close to the chest, which is the right thing to do, and we'll see how it plays out. But not just has Partey been a rock. You mentioned Odegaard's been balling out, but Jesus returned just in time for Easter, and the church says,
Amen.
But on a serious note, I mean, just seeing him back, like the lift it's given the players. I mean, the fact that the two Gabriels scored, he had a great chance to get a goal himself, which Leno saved well with his feet. In fact, I was even listening to a journalist who was at the game, and he said that on the full-time whistle, Gabriel Jesus was still holding his head about the chance that he missed. He was still upset about it. And that's something he needs to kind of grow out of, because Haaland, he'll miss a chance, he'll just be laughing, be like, whatever.
Yeah, like,
another one's coming in 2 minutes, so it's no problem. So, but I'm so glad to have him back. It's going to be integral, not just for the run-in, but for personal reasons. I need him to get back on that goal-scoring beat. I need the next game. Look, first game back, I'll let it slide. It's your first game back. I'll let it slide. The next Premier League game, and I'm going to need two, my brother. I'm going to need two. I'm going to need two because you got to catch Darwin. You got to catch him. By will and by force, you got to catch him. That's all I have to say. But yeah, I'm really glad that he's back. I mean, for you, Marcus, what would you say now, looking from now to end of the season, would be the expectations of Jesus, like in terms of goals and performances? What would you expect to be a realistic kind of outlay for him?
Yeah, well, he comes back at a very, very essential time for Arsenal in the title race, and he is going to have to come back and be the main man. So I still think 15 Premier League goals is reasonable, all things considered. The fact that he's spent a good chunk of the season out injured. He's on 5, is that right?
Yeah, it's on 5, yeah.
Yeah, he's on 5. So, the fact that, my good friend Darwin is only 3 goals ahead of him and he's played most of the season is still quite worrying, I'm not going to lie. Yeah. But no, I absolutely think like 15 goals, that if he gets 15 goals, Arsenal, really, scoring influential goals, you think would go on and win the title. But I think it's great for them to have him back at this time. And yeah, I think, he's some key, excitement that Arsenal need in the kind of thrust to continue to win games. But who else I think, deserves a shout out is Trossard. What a performance at the weekend. Like 3 assists, in one half. First player to do that in the Premier League since
Santi
Fabregas.
Cazorla.
No, Fabregas, I think it was.
But for Arsenal, it was since Santi.
Okay, yeah. First player to do it in the Premier League since Cesc Fabregas, they said. And There you go, Cazorla for Arsenal. So, that's some serious standard. And he was fantastic. So big shout out to Trossard for his performance at the weekend. I thought he was brilliant.
Yeah, he is. He just looks an Arsenal player. It's weird because he just looks an Arsenal player, and I never saw this element to his game when he was at Brighton. I didn't know he was this techie. I didn't know he had that drop of the shoulder, and I think the thing I like the most about him is the accuracy of his deliveries. He puts the ball on a player every time. Every time. The set pieces, he's dropping it on someone. The cross, he drops it onto someone. It's never just like into space. It's always on a player, on the money. And like I said, he just looks an Arsenal man and an Arsenal guy. And I'm just glad that we got him and not 007 over there, the Ukrainian James Bond who's missing in action. Hopefully
he got an assist, though. He got an assist.
He got an assist. Well done.
He did.
Bergkamp.
He did.
Good goal. Take it.
Finally showed up. Finally got an assist when I took him out of my fantasy team.
Well, welcome to the party. Hopefully it continues for you. I hope you're happy with yourself. Anyway, but talking about obviously great Brazilians and Brazilian players who excite fan bases, and going from Gabriel, who rose again, to a man who, unfortunately, as it's Champions League night, another year, another Champions League run done. That's PSG dumped out of the Champions League. They are just woefully mismanaged and just don't deliver. But I want to talk about Neymar Jr. He's a very, very polarizing player. Some people don't rate him at all. Some people rate him as the best thing since sliced bread. But I want to start with you, Matthew, then over to you, Marcus. Like, how do you rate Neymar? Where do you put him in the best players of this past 5, 6, 7 years?
I think we have to remember his time as PSG. He's dragged them hard through some of these times, some of these titles, some of these great finishes. It's not necessarily been Messi. It's not even necessarily been Mbappe. It's been him. It's dragged this team to the place where they are right now. It's just that final push they're missing out on. But we have to remember the time at Barcelona, that famous MSN. It's almost as if, and even I was guilty of this at one point, where we forget just how explosive he was when he first came onto the scene, aligning himself with likes of Suarez, with the likes of Messi. He was unstoppable. He was the guy that you wanted. He is the definition of, never mind the streets will remember, the world will remember someone like him. He just, a player that it excites you when you look at him. Those game-changing moments, those great goals. I think he scored one in the World Cup. He's dragged them. Haven't won Copa del Rey, have they?
They've won Copa America.
Copa America, sorry. Yeah.
One with him and one without him.
Yeah, and the heartbreak, obviously, with the World Cup, although he might go again in 4 years' time, I don't know. But I think that, I don't know if it's overrated, underrated is a good chat, but I also think that sometimes, because of where we are right now and that hefty price tag that was put on him, that's changed transfers forever, nearly 10 years ago, we forget about the time at Barcelona where he truly kind of established, the freshness and the excitement that he would eventually bring to European football. And he's an eye catcher. You go to these places to watch him. You go to Paris to watch him. You go to Barcelona to watch him. You want to see, him. And let's be real, the boy can play. Yep. The boy can flame and play people. Let's not, let's put some, I never thought I'd say this about him, but let's put respect on the man's name, for crying out loud. My nephew almost schooled me on this about him in the comparison to Ronaldinho. And I had to step back and think a little bit, thinking actually, I'm basing it off the wrong time period in this guy. The guy has levels to him. And the difference with him is that he's still got his focus. It's almost like he's got more to prove. He wants that. He wants to win. He wants that hoops. And he wants the World Cup. Maybe having, it's as good as it is having someone like Messi next to you. I always think that he left to go to PSG to establish his own thing. And now that, that Messi's come along, is the only club that can actually afford him, it's don't forget about me. I know Messi's here. I know Mbappe's here. But don't forget about me, guys. I'm part of that seat at the table conversation as well. So I think as a player, do I think he's underrated? No, I think he's fairly rated, but his legacy possibly is. His legacy that he's left behind is the 2010s version of Ronaldinho. I think people do forget.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that Neymar has, in many respects, eclipsed Ronaldinho's, I don't want to use the word legacy, because Ronaldinho is different, because he redefined what it meant to, enjoy football.
He looked like he was
joy
having fun.
personified.
Yeah, he was doing the summer play football.
And I think it's fair to say that Neymar took his crown and ran with it. The numbers wise, he's way past Ronaldinho. Effectiveness in games, I think obviously he's missing the World Cup. That is a big detractor against him. But I think in terms of individual moments, how he's wrestled his team to victories. If you can think about games where he has single-handedly been the difference maker, he's got way more than Ronaldinho.
Yeah. Take away his goals. Take away his goals. If you want to understand how essential he is, just take away his goals. Then the conversation really gets interesting.
I mean, even if you take away his goals, he's still just. I mean, I'd say he's PSG's best player comfortably. And I think when you take him out the team, you notice the difference way more than when you lose the other two. Now, Mbappe missing a few games this season, they lost their firepower up front. But in seasons past, when Neymar's not been there, the drop-off is just humongous, and he's just really important. But for you, Marcus, as our final debate on Neymar, how do you rate him, and Who will be the next Maverick flair player to inherit his crown?
Neymar, I think, eclipses Ronaldinho for me because of his longevity. Like, I know people criticize Neymar saying he hasn't scored enough for PSG, and it's nonsense. It's just he has not played enough. Like,
Mm.
he plays 20 to 25 league games a season and scores, 15 to 20 league goals a season. He just hasn't played enough games for Madrid, and that's been his big problem. Sorry, for PSG, that's been his big problem. But Dino's like peak, I think, was better than higher than Neymar's peak in terms of if you take that 1 or 2 years of Dino at his best, he was like different level. He was up there with just short of Messi and Ronaldo for his peak period. Whereas I think Neymar's a little bit off them. However, saying that, I think Neymar is underrated. I think he gets so much abuse for the level of quality that he's provided in his career. His legacy is phenomenal, and I would say that Neymar is top 5 players of our generation. In that top 5, I would put him in the top 5. You could argue a handful for obviously after Messi and Ronaldo, you're looking at Suarez, you're looking at Ibrahimovic, you're looking at Lewandowski, you're looking at Neymar, and I think there's a good case that you could put Neymar above all of them in third, based on his career. But I think for me, I think Suarez maybe eclipses Neymar, and then Neymar, Lewandowski. That might be my top 5. Who's the next Neymar? I think the obvious one at the moment is Vinny Jr. He's picking up that mantle. He's looking very good. He's had a great season for Real Madrid this year. Hopefully he stays quiet tonight. Almost scored already. Nearly had a heart attack. But yeah, I think Vinny Jr. looks like the potential, replacement. He's a flair player. He's talented. The question is he going to be able to provide the output? I had this conversation with someone recently where I was like, guys, Erling Haaland has scored 38 goals this season in all competitions, and look at what he's doing in the Premier League. And then the person I was having the conversation reminded me, yeah, but Messi and Ronaldo scored 50 plus for 7 years in a row. And I was like, yeah, that's true. That's very, very true. That's the standard. I know Haaland's breaking records and records that Messi and Ronaldo didn't break. So you kind of think maybe he's heading in the trajectory of surpassing them. But you got to remember what it takes to do it for 6 or 7 years. And their records were something else. So can Haaland do it? Maybe. Can Mbappe do it? Maybe. But yeah, I think Vinny Jr. is probably the most made player in the Neymar comparison. The only other player that I would give credence to at this particular stage, potentially, but it's still way, way too early, and he's still way behind Neymar in his Vinny in his development, is Karim Adeyemi at Dortmund. I think he's a very, very good player, flair player, talented, fast, tricky, but he's still miles away from producing anywhere where you could even put him in that conversation.
I want to add a name into the hat on top of those two. A player who I think definitely on potential could be up there for that conversation in a couple of seasons' time, depending on what his next move is career-wise. Rafael Leao.
I was just about to say him.
I think he is definitely in with a shout of being a part of that conversation in time. Now, as an Arsenal fan, I want to say one of my boys, but I'm gonna be humble and say that not quite. But I also think they're going to be a different category of players. I don't think they're going to necessarily. Well, I don't know, but I think Rafael Leao could be in with a shout of being up there with Adeyemi and Vinny Jr.
Yeah.
And considering Vinny Jr. was very inconsistent a couple of years ago, it's remarkable how much he's developed. And maybe even his teammate Rodrigo might be the one that takes that crown on as well. So we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I think we'll call it a night there. Obviously, Chelsea got a win at the weekend. A small clap for them. That's it. Yeah,
Thank you, Marcus.
And yeah, so we'll see how the games go. Man City don't play again in the league until after the international break, so a little point gap could appear between them and Arsenal. So we'll see how that looks afterwards. But thanks for listening. Let us know your thoughts. And are you Team Gary Lineker or Team BBC? Just joking. But in serious, are you? Like, which one are you? But anyway, see you all next time. Have a great rest of the week. And come on, you Reds. Whoever that is, take that for yourselves. Peace out.
Peace out.
Peace.